In today's video, we have some more NHL trade talk focusing on teams like the Vancouver Canucks, Ottawa Senators, and San Jose Sharks. We have a suspension to discuss, news on the NHL waivers, and another small NHL trade. We'll discuss the details coming up next. Let's kick things off with news from the NHL waiver wire. Now, we didn't talk about the NHL waiver wire yesterday, but the Islanders did place Leo Komarov on waivers, and he did clear, so he can be assigned to the taxi squad. Obviously, that's just really looking for roster flexibility, but you have to assume here as well, when these teams place players on waivers, they're fully prepared for somebody to claim them, but a lot of these veteran players, especially with bigger contracts, are less likely to be claimed, and teams know that, so they're willing to roll the dice here, and that's what we have another one of those today. The Edmonton Oilers have placed James Neal on waivers. So obviously we'll find out noon Eastern time tomorrow. If he actually ended up being claimed, I'm going to suspect more than likely he does not. The cap hit is rather high. The goal totals have been not there since he's returned to the Oilers this year. He's an okay, but not great. So obviously this gives Edmonton more flexibility with being able to assign him to the taxi squad and move other players in and out. So we will see how things go, but more than likely he clears, and we'll find out for sure. Now, we also have a suspension. We have Arizona Coyotes forward Johan Larsson has been suspended for 2 games for an illegal check to the head to St. Louis Blues forward Zach Sanford. So if you watch the play here, and I'll try to post a link from NHL Player Safety, essentially there is direct contact with the head. The head's definitely the focal point of contact. He doesn't really have a history, so a 2-game ban is something that's certainly justified here in my opinion. So he'll be out for the next 2 games for Arizona. Arizona and St. Louis, in case you haven't been paying attention as well, have been playing back to back to back to back. They've been playing each other a lot because a lot of the other teams they were supposed to play around them have been put on pause due to COVID issues. So they've been kind of keep playing. They'll have their season series wrapped up here in no time at this pace. Now, of course, as I mentioned, we also have another small trade. In case you missed it, there was a trade earlier between Ottawa and Carolina, which is a 3-player deal. So if you missed that, I'll link the video to the YouTube cards. You can check out the details there. But we have another trade, this time also involving Carolina and Columbus, where the Columbus Blue Jackets have acquired Gregory Hofmann, who is a prospect at this point, but an older prospect, 28-year-old Swiss player, never played an NHL game. Of course, he was originally drafted back in 2011, never played an NHL game, ended up staying over in Switzerland, playing in the Swiss League. Put up some really solid numbers, though, so maybe they'll be fortunate and he'll turn out to be a solid player. Well worth the risk taking a 7th-round pick to give up for him. I mean, maybe they'll be fortunate and get somebody anywhere near like a Kubalik or a Panarin. We don't know that he's going to be that good, but still, like I said, a risk worth taking on somebody at this stage of their career. So, of course, as I mentioned, we have some NHL trade talk concerning a few other teams. I want to talk about the Ottawa Senators here. I mean, of course, we saw a trade with them earlier today. That trade actually went down while I was prepping to record for this video. So I kind of put this one on pause here to get the trade video done first. But at the end of the day, what I was going to talk about was that the Senators are rumored to be basically, potential for a firing sale here with all their pending UFAs, all 9 of them possibly being traded out before the end of the season. And we saw a couple of those guys move here today. Of course, with another pending UFA himself, Ryan Dzingel, going back to Ottawa. So that kind of adds to the list. But I do think there's a better chance they would try to retain him if he plays well compared to a lot of the other guys that they have here on the roster. But we saw Galchenyuk and Paquette already move. We have other guys like you have Derek Stepan, Michael Haley, Michael Pekka. I mean, you also have some defensemen like Eric Branson, for example, Mike Riley. They're all potentially available. Braden Coburn, throw his name in there as well. Even Marcus Hogberg to an extent. I mean, he had a much better game today against Winnipeg. He might have offered himself a little bit of an extension on his season, but if he gets back to playing like he was early on, he's as good as gone too. But at the same time, you're going to say that it's going to have a hard time to get some takers for some of these players, but there is rumors here that the Senators are just getting started with some of these veteran players being moved out. So expect more deals like we saw here today, either bringing in a different kind of veteran who they feel can help now or getting something additional for the future, depending on what they're able to get here. But a lot of these players that were brought in are just not getting the job done and are going to find themselves on the way out of Ottawa. And if they don't get traded, they won't be re-signed heading into next season, so they can create more and more opportunity here for their younger players. Now, as I mentioned as well, I want to talk about the San Jose Sharks. Now, we've seen head coach Bob Boughner, obviously frustrated with the team's performance, call out goaltender Martin Jones, who's really, in my opinion, been on a steady decline for about a good solid 3 years. Back in 2017, he signed a 6-year contract extension, and really the first year was okay, and after that, it's been all downhill, and going downhill really at a rapid speed. He's been really inconsistent, hasn't had a save percentage above 900 in 3 seasons. Off to another bad start here this year. And all at the end of the day, you need to be able to get a save once in a while. And the teams that are near the bottom, like we saw with Ottawa early on, San Jose's in a similar predicament that they're just not getting that. So when you do get the effort out of the rest of the team, it's not coming in between the pipes, and it's a letdown for sure. We've even seen the Sharks, even to a degree, sit Erik Karlsson today as well, frustrated with his play. They got a couple of really big time contracts there, really anchoring things down. So that's not a good look for San Jose. They're in a rough spot. But the fact is, there's been talk about them wanting to move Jones. It's just going to prove to be virtually impossible. Martin Jones has a 3-year contract remaining after the season at over $5 million, and he has a modified no trade where he can provide a list of only 3 teams that he'd accept a trade to. That's going to be pretty impossible without getting him to waive, retaining a bunch of salary, and getting another team to take a chance on a goaltender who's now 31 years old and, being terribly inconsistent and not cutting it anymore. So, unfortunately, they're probably stuck with him is what it looks like, but there is certainly talk that they would love to find themselves a taker for Martin Jones. There's just no way, in my opinion, it's going to happen. But look for the Sharks, another team here who obviously struggled last year, bottomed out, and were expected to bounce back. And I just don't see them getting too far with that this year. So we could see a scenario where some of their other veteran players that are more attractive and might have more value might have to get moved over some of these contracts, like an Erik Karlsson or a Martin Jones, that are just not all that desirable here anymore. But I'll be curious to see if Jones, being called up by the coach, bounces back at all and can get his act together. But considering how long he's been on the decline, I have serious doubts that's going to happen. Lastly, here I want to talk about the Vancouver Canucks. There's a lot of reports, and it's kind of started with Elliot Friedman, and now others have had their sources kind of join the conversation as well. If the Canucks continue to really struggle here, especially in this 4-game set they have against the Flames, or playing game 2 of 4 tonight, if they really have continue that losing streak, that we're going to see significant change, and it could start between Jim Benning and or Travis Green. Now, obviously, we've now since had owner Francisco Aquilini, actually, just as I was recording this video, make statements on Twitter giving them all a vote of confidence. Now, that's good. That probably buys them some more time. But at the same time, I've seen owners or GMs give votes of confidence before, and within a couple of weeks, if things do not turn around, that vote of confidence goes out the window and change becomes reality. So we will see how things go. We've heard the names of Adam Gaudette. We've heard Jake Virtanen out there, but we have not seen any trades made yet. I would think Jim Benning is probably pushing hard to get some trades done to save his job at this point. Getting a vote of confidence is great, but that's only a band-aid on a short-term basis. This Canuck team is not living up to their standard right now, and something has to give there. You can tell something is off with the players too. It's just not what it was last year. I'm not sure what exactly the missing piece is. Maybe they're just missing their old teammates who didn't get to stick around. I don't know what it is, but Vancouver needs to start with something. But the big name that was dropped by Elliot Friedman, which has kind of got people talking, which is why I brought it up here. I want to get everybody else's thoughts, is he mentioned the possibility of Jim Benning's replaced, about Roberto Luongo being the next GM of the Vancouver Canucks. What do you think of that? I mean, he's a special advisor to the GM for the Florida Panthers, not long from being retired. I mean, the Canucks still have a recapture penalty on their cap hit because of that retirement, so it would be kind of funny if he came to work for them in a way. But obviously, he's a bright man. He's a well-respected hockey guy who many feel will be a general manager someday, but he's only been retired a short while and only been working with the Panthers a short while, so many might question whether or not he's ready for that much of a leap that quickly. And would he even want to do it? I mean, he's pretty content down in Florida. I don't know if he'd want to work full-time in Vancouver again. That's difficult to say. So, I mean, even if the interest was there, what do you think? Do you think that Jim Benning is in serious trouble here if they don't pull off a couple of trades and get things back on track and kind of start playing better, are we going to see significant change near the top of the Vancouver Canucks pecking order? And would Roberto Luongo make good sense to replace Jim Benning to come in and kind of right the ship here and see what he can do with things? I mean, it's fun to think about. He's an interesting guy. He's an entertaining guy, a well-respected guy. I just don't know if he's ready to be a GM just yet, and would he want to go back to the hotbed of Vancouver? And, he knows what that market's like. He was there a long time. I don't know. We'll see. I want to know what everybody thinks down below in the comments, and we'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing and turning on your notifications so you don't miss any future content, and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I'd appreciate it if you did. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.